like I just hit record and then we just go to work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
It's the best way to do it.
yeah,
I think.
a little introduction, Scotty. Why don't you tell the 8 viewers that we have
Hell yeah.
like how you and I got to know each other, what your purpose is in general, and how it is you're helping me in my life, and then we'll just dive into excuses and results.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So what's up, guys? How you doing? My name is Scott Soltis, but everybody knows me as Karate Scotty. So I'm a personal development coach, fitness, health and wellness, business consultant, creative consultant, all many things, man. Mike and I actually met through a different channel, a different community that I was a part of that I had walked away from. Well, it's another story. But yeah, man. And so we kind of started working together, and in that capacity, we realized that both of us kind of had a lot of similarities, and we were kind of built the same. I had progressed in areas he hadn't yet. He had progressed in some areas I hadn't yet. And so we kind of found this common ground to work together a little bit. And now here we are. And I'm helping Mike get his shit together, make him superhuman, get him jacked, get him all encompassed of what he wants to be in that living, walking God. So
That's right. And how's that going?
Man.
And
how's
that
it
going so
can
far?
always go better. It can always go better, but no, that's kind of why we're getting into this, right? I think that's a truth that needs to be talked about too, though, is that it can always be better, right?
Yep.
Like excuses are excuses. They are what they are. Like we all have them, and anybody can get on here and talk all the shit they want about how they don't, but they're full of shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like at some point, everybody has an excuse for something, regardless of what it is, what the circumstance is. Like everybody has an excuse at some point, and it's just part of it is human nature. And how do we get past resolving or revolving back to that pattern every time that thing comes up, right? So I think that's like how we get, and just diving right into it, I think that's how we get past those like surface level excuses that are the ones that are in the way of the deep work that we need to do, right? Like all that surface level excuse bullshit is really what the first like getting past stage needs to be, I think, right? Because we always have that, well, I could eat a little better, or I could read a little more, or I could maybe work on this a little more, right? That's all like surface shit, right? Like that's like the simple stuff you can do. Those are the little excuses, right? But you got to get past those in order to get down and do the deep work, which is like, okay, cool, I changed my food, but like now what do I change about who I am to match the rest of what I'm doing, right? The deep inner work excuse. So there's a few levels to it, I think.
And I think everybody knows what everybody knows when it comes to, yes, I could eat a little better. Yes, I could drink a little more water. Yes, it will help with my confidence levels. But if we don't really have that really clear vision of like why I need to eat better, why I need to hydrate better, why, you know what I mean? Like having that big, clear, vivid vision. And that's always my biggest struggle. I in my past have been big, thick, and juicy, let's say. I did it all the wrong way, had my nutrition dialed, well hydrated, copious levels of substances going into my body to help intensify the outcome of the results. But without knowing a reason why, I let my body fall apart, which then creates additional levels of excuses. But how, like in your position, how do you help people see what the greatest level outcome can be and keep them on that course to be able to achieve it instead of allowing complacency to sneak in and let the excuses be so overwhelming again?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, actually. So I think even in that, there's levels to that, right? Because to me, complacency as a word itself, it's an ugly word, right? But it does serve a purpose to some degree. Like I truly believe that, right? Because if you replace complacency with achievement, right? Like then the whole narrative changes. So I think like first and foremost, you have to understand that complacency can be a positive thing if you've achieved the goal you were trying to achieve and now you're maintaining it, right? Yeah. So there's that level of complacency, right? And then there's a level of fuck it complacency,
Yeah.
So, right. So they're kind of different things. So I think you have to know every individual is a little different. So part of what I have to do, and this is why I like to work with people for a longer extended period of time, is because I have to be able to recognize the patterns of complacency and whether or not they're maintenance complacency or it's fuck it complacency.
Hell
Right.
yeah.
So, because there's a huge, there's two different things there because like, so for me, I know every way upside down, backwards, left and right to get ripped, shredded, jacked out of my mind and look like a fucking Greek god. I know every way to do it, every way possible.
Yeah.
But I am okay and happy with being somewhere in the middle. Still
Yeah.
have abs, still have a great physique, just not 5% body fat all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And some people would call that complacency to where myself, no, I call that there's a level of happiness and achievement there. I
Yeah.
know all of those things and this is where I'm happy with this. So that complacency is a positive thing. When you look at patterns of, well, I've never gotten better in this arena,
Hmm.
then that's the fuck it complacency, right? So where like, so like, for example, yourself, amazing artist, phenomenal fucking artist. Like you could probably do all of these things with your eyeballs closed, half in your sleep. You know how to change colors, how to get something in deeper, how to shade properly, how to pull light from different directions, right? So
Hmm.
you're complacent in how you do that. You're always trying to be a little better, but you know exactly what to do, right? You
Yeah.
know exactly how to be to maintain that level of success, right? So it's the same thing. But then when it comes to your fitness and maybe some personal goals you have, well, then you start to make the fucking excuses, right?
Yep.
Well, I
Absolutely.
got all this going on over here, and I don't really have time for that because of this, and I fucking that, right? Those are fucking excuses. And so
Yeah.
it's so for me, the first part of like how I can help is the time. I need to be able to be just a part of watching someone's actions for a few months at a time to understand, okay, were they gung ho in the start and something changed and that's why they're not gung ho? Were they complacent from the start and that never changed and there needs to be a level of gung ho instilled in there? Was
Yeah.
it a complete rock bottom fucking start over? Like I need to be at your like waking call. Why aren't you doing this every moment? So there's levels to it that I have to know. I have to understand where someone is at before I can confidently be like, okay, this is what we need to actually fix, right? So many people, I think, go into what I do and as a personal development, fitness, wellness coach. So many people go into it thinking there's lane A. I
Yeah.
need to just make sure that I can get them into lane A and everything will be good, right? Well, the
Hmm.
problem is we drive in 100 different fucking lanes every day, all of us. So there is no lane A. The only way a lane A exists is if you're an extremist. You have no other responsibility. You have nothing else lingering over your shoulder. So I can't help without knowing those factors, right? So like
Yeah.
that's like the first thing that I have to pay attention to. So like for me to see these, well, I can fix you in a couple months and I can change everything for you in a few months. You can't. It's not possible. You can't even recognize patterns of somebody without spending enough time with them or understanding what they do for an extended period of time to say, okay, I know what your problem is now. Right.
Yep.
So for me to be able to help get out of that complacency, I have to have an understanding of who you are and how you operate as a person. And so like, then I'll know, are your excuses or is this your maintenance level because you're working on this,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's room for both of it, but ultimately getting past the surface level excuses are the cut the bullshit. Like why is it
Hmm.
not getting done? Like I've paid attention now. I know you can. Like I know you can't. I know this. I know that. So for me, the best way to help anybody is to kind of get to that point where I understand it, where I
Yeah.
understand who they are, how they operate, right? And a lot of times too, for me, that's why I'm very, very big on organic connection and pulling in clientele that way and just networking or connecting that way.
Hmm.
Because for me, there's that it's a level of A, trust, and B, just exposure, being exposed to that person or that person trusting me because they've been exposed to me, right? So like that's why I like the organic feel and the conversation and the way that I acquire the clients that I do, because I always have a level of understanding who that person is, even if they're somewhat of a stranger to me, but they're a follower and they've commented on my thing. Like, I genuinely try to like pay attention to people that have engaged with me. And so if I strike up a conversation, I have an idea of who that person is. So further down the road, I've already started to create these pattern recognitions in my head. Right. So like I've already, like with you, we've known each other for a while. So like I've already started to generate my own, like, okay, Mike operates like this a little bit. He does this a little bit, right? Even before we work together. So it's for me, it's like at the infancy of when I like even connect with you is when I start to pay attention to the patterns, because
Yeah.
that's when I'll know what's an excuse and what is real and true, and that you have to actually take care of as a responsibility that you cannot allot time for this over here. Right. So I think understanding that as a coach is really important, because you can say to everyone all day, fuck your excuses, and think you're a good coach when really you're not doing anybody any good, because you're not changing anything. You're just being a tyrant.
Yeah, I think like so there's two things I took away from that. One, words matter, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of excuses just come from the verbiage that we use. Just replacing complacency with maintenance
Mm-hmm.
to me has been absolutely huge. I've made a conversion with content creation from predominantly Instagram to YouTube,
Yep.
just because Instagram can be on maintenance where YouTube requires a lot more of my attention. No different
Right.
than my art is in maintenance because I can produce it, as you had said, with your eyes closed. But the rest of my life always requires an extensive level of attention because it is what's been neglected for X amount of time.
Right. Yep.
But to understand, and that's kind of the one thing I've seen and had a huge problem with when it comes to the social media gurus, the coaching, the mentoring, is there's rarely bedside manner. It's generally talk tracks. There's no understanding the psychology of the individual. It's just understanding the psychology of the algorithm to find
Right.
the ideal avatar. Jake
Yep.
and I had a conversation last night about how the idea of the avatar is rendered obsolete as long as you know distinctly what your personal brand is and the
100%.
value that you provide, as long as it comes from heart, not from mind.
100%.
And taking that into consideration, like me, my biggest struggle, I know where my heart is, and that is in my art, that's in my mentorship, that's in my businesses, that's in my family. Now I know where my mind is, and my mind is wanting to be dick skin peeled and jacked. But when I let my mind make that decision, my mind also comes up with a lot of doubt and a lot of excuses. Where when it becomes just part of your heart, part of your passion, part of your mission, then
Yeah.
that itself then just becomes your next flywheel. And that's where I struggle. You and I have worked together for going on 2, maybe 3 months,
Mhm.
and I've gotten fucking nowhere. You know what I mean? Because I'm allowing my mind to have excuses while my heart is doing all the things I'm already fully aware I'm great at.
Yeah. Yeah.
But until we challenge ourselves and we challenge what our mind comes up with, it'll never become part of us, part of our defining elements.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. And the on the word tracking, like the words are huge. And that was something that I realized a long time ago, like for my own self, just in my own like personal development, is like that whole idea of
You like
I love
that?
that cup. Yeah, it's great. Hell yeah. My daughter has a what is it? Mr. Pickle sickle something fucking sticker on her
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. But yeah, back to that. The words for me and word replacement was a huge one for me, right? And so for me, it's the other side of the spectrum, to where the health, the fitness, the wellness, all of that, like that's my easy. That's my, I've been an athlete my whole life, right?
Mhm.
I started martial arts when I was 3 fucking years old. So like for me, like physical fitness and enduring that and going through that, that's so natural for me, because I
Yeah.
grew up doing that as a part of my day to day. So like for you, you're an artist. Like it's natural. You grew up doing that as a part of your day to day. So
Mhm.
so same with me. It's like opposite ends of the spectrum. But I had to change my wording. A lot of that I can't, and like fucking, I'm not good at it, and
Yeah.
I'm failing, right? To where like, okay, I made some progress today. All right, I adjusted here. I need to make some changes here, and so it's like changing those words really did a lot for me too, and understanding like what it meant to me in my process. because everybody's process is going to be a little different too.
Do you feel like I'm failing is more of a statement or a state of being, though?
I think it's both, depending on where you're at in your life, right? Like, and this is why I say that. I say that it becomes a state of being when you like perpetuate it for so long that it actually is,
Yeah.
right? But when it's just a mindset thing or something like that, that's where, in my opinion, you're an overachiever or somebody that reaches for a very high level of success. So you're always reaching that more for more. So to that person, I'm failing or I'm a failure is that moment, that instant, that particular thing they were trying to accomplish. Right.
Yeah.
So again, I think there's two sides to that. Like I'm a failure eventually becomes like you are that thing if you stay in that realm.
Yeah.
But that I think that has to come from already kind of being down. I don't think I truly don't think that if your mind is at a level it is where like someone like myself or you like seen some success, you know how to accomplish things, you understand how shit works, but maybe you really fucked up on something you were trying. You know in your head that failure was just shit in motion and you understanding it a little better and how to do it better, right? But that's because of where you are. Had you been a person that every day it's been negative for the last 10 years, every fucking thing that happens to you, I failed again, I suck at this, I can't do shit, I'm no good at this. If that's like your running fucking vocabulary for the last how many years, then eventually, yes, you fall into like you're just systematically a failure. Now,
Yeah.
can you change it? Of course. But it's like not in 30 fucking days. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a huge element to like the self fulfilling prophecy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where you do inevitably set your own terms of engagement or lack of. And again, like I'm a creature of that habit where I will convince myself I can create magic, not just be a spectator of. There's also a lot of things that I will spectate everyone else do and become envious of and just believe I can't achieve because of excuse A, B, and C.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like I've always considered myself a high performance individual because I eat, sleep, and breathe massive levels of action. And sometimes, even when it comes to my physical journey, and this is the conversation you and I are going to have after this, is
Yep.
it's extremely important for me to be healthy, not only for myself, but for my family, for my son, and for those who look at me because eyes and ears are always watching.
Yep.
However, it becomes really convoluted when we feel like the plate is stacked so full. We don't know where to remove things from that plate to be able to prioritize the next things. And that's a big struggle that I have as a high performance individual is knowing
Mhm.
where to make the sacrifices when you value so many things in your life.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
100%. Yeah.
but once you make the decision to work with someone or to even take the reins, it is going to be pass or fail because the minute you say you want to do it and you inevitably don't, that's when broken neurological pathways and a lack of confidence comes into play and you just
Yeah.
allow it to consume you.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I've seen that and I agree to that completely. And I think the way that you combat that is obviously by having someone to reach out to, myself, obviously with you, or just having that kind of person. But back to your talk about it being hard to remove things off from your plate, like when you are a very high performer and you do value all of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is for me where, and I've gotten stuck in this where you're at right now too, is we can only progress to a certain point, right? We can only progress to that point of kind of where you are right now, where like you genuinely value all of the things in your life for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now we have to make the conscious decision. Okay, is this it? Is this where I want to be? Right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I understand. Yeah, we value all those things, right? Like, yes, I value my family time. I value my time with my wife. I value all of these things. But the reality is, what I value more is progression, right?
Yeah.
So I think at some point, it's your value almost has to trump itself a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like so like for me, like I understand now because I've done it longer and my value has to continue to progressively shift is I know everything is momentary, right? So like even if I feel like I'm pulling value out of a place in my life right now, I know my idea is my value is always progressive, right? So my mindset is always, even if I'm going to pull this out right now, I know that in a year from now, after accomplishing this thing that I'm trying to accomplish, this thing will be easier,
Yeah.
right? And this will be come right back into the picture. So like I think it's almost readjusting your what you value in that progressive like mindset, right? Like yes, I love all these things. Like I don't want to take shit away either, but how far do you want to go? And I
Yeah.
think that is something that you have to make the decision of as a human being, as a man, as a woman, whatever it is, you have to make that decision for yourself and be okay with it, because otherwise you get stuck in this position you are right now, right? Where like you still want to progress and you still want things to get better, but you're stuck because you don't want to lose something that you value. When
Hmm.
what you really should look at it as you're just putting that valuable jar on the shelf for a minute,
Yeah. Or
right?
putting that in maintenance.
Or putting that in maintenance, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like right, like you have your shelf with all of your ingredients for the perfect recipe of your life, but maybe today doesn't require all of them. Maybe today requires these seven, right?
Yeah.
They're still on your happiness shelf. They're still on your fulfillment and your value shelf. You're just not using them every single day. So it doesn't mean you get rid of them. It just means that you put them on the shelf for a second while you do this. And then you put that on the shelf and then you grab that and put it back. Right.
Yep.
So it's like just kind of a reorganization of values and understanding that you can have way more things in your day to day that you value that you can accomplish, but it's strategically placing them where they need to be for that particular day and whether or not it's important. And if like you have to work out and it's more important than art today because that art piece you don't even need to finish for fucking 3 months, well then okay, work out
Yeah.
today and go back to the art tomorrow. Right. So that's how I would like in my brain, that's how that works. Like if you want to continue to grow, you have to keep what you value, but place it on a shelf sometimes to create more value to be able to continue to progress. Because otherwise you're stuck and you have to make that decision. I'm going to stay here in this stuck position and I'm okay with that. And that's okay. If that's fucking what you want to do, great. That's fine. But you don't, right? That's
Yeah.
not what you want. So how do we do that? Well, we shift value on the day, right?
Yeah.
Like and that's all again strategy of how do we place what task in front of us at this day and this point that makes the most sense for the value of the outcome, right?
Hmm.
So like, what's the outcome, and is this valuable to that right now? And if it's not, put that on the shelf.
I think a big thing for me and a lot of the people that I work with is the inevitable fear of pulling the wrong string and everything unraveling, which is a fear of success and risk,
Mm-hmm.
never the fear of failure. I think all of us at some point in time have gotten very comfortable in failure, so that no longer allows us to be afraid of it. It becomes
Right.
our comfortable maintenance. So going into maintenance mode for the things we already excel at to be able to prioritize the other things, have a little psychological fear of it unraveling while we're over here like
Yeah.
actually scaling and doing more. And I get that like in my full chest,
Yeah.
but I think that's kind of what life is about. And having gone to the point where like Katie and I working with you, knowing all of the health things that we both inevitably face because of the lives we had previously lived, it does make us in a lot of different ways fearful of everything else unraveling while we go into this.
Yeah.
Although we already know that by going all the way into this, the other things stand to scale as a byproduct of. So going back to an original thing, I think that there's a huge necessity and a huge need to understand the psychology of where these things come from, not just as you had said, like the baseline like
Yeah.
excuse, but what's the psychology behind it?
Right. Yeah, it's the deep rooting, right? It's always the deep rooted problem. And like we can sit here all day and say to a fat person, "Will you eat like shit?" You can do that all day long, right? Well, like maybe, but that's probably not the case, right? That's probably not where the problem started. So
Yeah.
that's why like the excuse button and the excuse word, I think if you want to be a real adult and you want to be serious about it, you have to understand that like excuses have multiple layers to them, just like anything else. And the deep rooted problem, if you can figure that out, everything else becomes easier. right? Like if
Mhm.
you can figure out, like, so for prime example, if you can figure out that the 38-year-old, and this is a client of mine, I'm not gonna say her name, but if you can figure out the 38-year-old diabetic lady that is just alone and unhappy, and that's where her real struggle is, and that's why she eats, and that's why she's not where she wants to be, and that's why, when you can figure that out, well, now it becomes way less about nutrition, right? It becomes the
Mhm.
psycho that now we're talking psychology, just like you said. And there's a massive lack there because everybody wants to just say, eat this food, do these workouts, and then now you're fucking good to go. Cool, right? Pay me for 3 months and I'll change your life. You
Yeah.
won't. Like, that's not the case. You won't. Like, you need the time to understand the deep root of the quote unquote excuse, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens when you pull the layers back to, if you have an empathetic enough moment to be able to pull back and say, what's really the matter? Like,
Mhm.
what's wrong? Why are you unhappy? Why, like, what got you to this point? And typically it's not, oh, I'm the happiest person on earth, I just eat like crap. Bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like, bullshit. So it's like, so yeah, so understanding the psychology, but that has to happen by not being an arrogant prick and saying, well, you're just making excuses. Well, we'll go deeper than that, right? Like, what are the excuses? Why are the excuses? Yeah, so
Mhm.
like it is lacking. It's a huge fucking missing point, and I think that's why I hate these 30-day transformations and this I can change your life in this. These life coaches that I can do everything for you in a couple months. You can't. You have to understand the patterns because they didn't happen in 30 days. They didn't happen in
Yeah.
90 days. They didn't happen in a year sometimes. Just like you said, you and Katie are unraveling a half a lifetime of fucking bad decisions. Same thing that I've had to do, right? So like when you understand that the path to get you where you were at took that long, you have
Mhm.
to understand the path to get there might take that long too, but you'll never even fucking, just like you're saying a few minutes ago, you'll never even get past the starting point if you don't understand the deeper rooted problem,
Yeah.
right? Like you won't. Same with me and you. I'm paying attention to when you're going, what you're like believe it or not, I pay attention to the fact that you actually go to the gym on specific days more than you do other days.
Oh yeah.
Right? So like
Yeah.
so it's things like that. So understanding that is where the magic happens. But if you can't get to if you don't understand at that point as a coach, as a mentor, as a consultant, whatever you want to call yourself, you're doing your job completely fucking wrong. Completely
Yeah.
fucking wrong. Right? There's plenty there's diets, there's fucking every fad diet and option on the planet. There's drugs, there's fucking supplements, there's everything on the planet that you can grab and use and try to fake it for as long as you can.
Mhm.
And then eventually what will happen? Your brain will kick in again. The emotion and the deep rooted problem was never fixed. And you
Yeah.
come back to where you are now. That's why you see like I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a whole big thing about The Biggest Losers and that whole show and how all of those fucking people are just fucked now and just mentally fucked up and all because they never got to that part. They just
Yeah.
said, all you got to do is fucking get on this show and run up a hill and eat this food and your whole life will change.
Yep.
Nope. So what? So yeah, man, I agree with you 100%. So I think when we look at excuses, we have to really pay attention to kind of everything involved and what led up to that point, right? Like what's the leading, like for example, Katie, I'm not going to say a bunch of all of her shit, but like with health issues, right? Like, okay, now we have to figure out, okay, well, we got this now, what happened here and why did this happen here and what was going on in your life with this. And so all of these things you have to understand in order to kind of, I guess, redefine the excuse as the reason, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
yeah, like, and I always hated that like ideology of it's not a reason, it's an excuse. No, it could 100 fucking percent be a reason if you would just take a beat, listen, understand what's actually going on, and then maybe you see that that excuse is a fucking a reason, a reasonable reason, a logical reason, right? So it's to answer that bluntly after all of this is it's the difference between an arrogant asshole and somebody that understands how life works.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I think one big issue is when you look at a lot of clients who want to come in, ask for your help, you still have to fight through that ego to be able to get to a lot of those root causes. That's one thing that I've been on both ends of that coin for. I've been the guy who is far too proud to start peeling back those layers to get to the real root. So I only got so far. Have you ever done like the 12 steps of AA?
So I've never done it. I know it just from being through the recovery process and
The
environment, but
The only reason I ask is because there's a particular step where you have to do inventory, you have to understand what
yeah.
damage you've done, and you have to go out and make amends.
Is that like
Now,
5 or
the
6?
reason 4 and 5, I believe,
Okay, yeah.
but
See, I'm familiar with it, but yeah, yep.
yeah. But point being, the reason most people fail around 9, 10, 11 is because they willingly left things off the list that they weren't willing to face. And those are inevitably the things they carry with them that stop them at the fucking gates from going into a successful outcome.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to go back. You have to do re-inventory, make sure you didn't leave any stone unturned,
Yep.
because usually it's the pride that doesn't allow us to face those particular things, those particular like damages that we created, or those particular experiences that we had. That's always going to be the one anchor
Yep.
that stops us from going all in. And
100%. Yeah. I call it residual karma.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's extremely common, especially in the world that we live in today. Like people not having to face their own demons, and by spotlighting others in hopes that that will help the
Eliminate their, yeah, they won't.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
it's all like the Wizard of Oz complex. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Everybody wants to position themselves as this big, like grandiose curtain of enlightenment and
Nope.
judgment, but behind it, there's some shriveled old midget with a curly mustache that everybody's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's upsetting,"
Yeah.
you
Hey,
know?
wait a minute. Hold on a second here. Yeah. But it is, it's so true though, too, right? Like I've talked about this before in the past because I've been a victim of it. And just like you said, you'd have too, like you've done it too. Like I've done the same shit, right? Where like, and that's why I say it's like, it's this residual karma to where maybe 5 years ago, you cleaned everything up, right? I'm just using easy
Mhm.
numbers, but like 5 years ago, you cleaned everything up. You did all the things, you changed all the things, but there was that one conversation you never had, right? And
Yep.
you were like, everything else is great. I can just push this under the rug and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And then year 6 comes, and that conversation with that person changes everything, right?
Yep.
Because you never fucking took care of it. So yeah, it is, and that I think there is that level of fear and pride. Whereas
Yeah.
like you fix you, because what happens, I think what happens in that, and because I'm absolutely a victim of it, and I think what happens is you do so much self work and you do so much learning and adjusting and tearing down of yourself and all of this, right? You do so much self work on yourself that you get to this point where you genuinely feel like you can't tell me shit. I know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm doing. I know what I did. I know what I fixed. I fixed everything. I'm the best. I got it under control. Everybody hits that point after they do so much self work,
Yeah.
right? And then what happens? Fucking God comes and says, "Watch this,
Yeah.
asshole!" Right? So, hey,
Yeah.
so everybody kind of gets to that point, and I think you have to understand that when you hit that point of fear and that level of excuse
Hmm.
is the most important time to do that work,
Yeah.
right? Because it will always come up. Just like you just said, it's always going to come up. Whether it's 5 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, it will always come up, right? A lot of it for me, probably the past, I don't know, 7, 8 years has been frequency recognition, patterns, obviously, but frequency too, right? Like knowing with people around me, do I even dive into this, right? Like on that as a frequency level, do I dive into this conversation with this person? Do I even fucking entertain this
Yeah.
because of what residual outcome may happen, right? And so like I pay attention to people's frequencies because of that now. So it's like after so many years of time and doing the self work and getting past the you ain't shit part, right? You start to understand, okay, there's always more to this. There's always deeper work to be done, right? There's always
Mhm.
more emotional work to be done. There's always more spiritual work to be done. And until you can kind of really recognize and understand that we are in control, and you have to decipher excuse from reason, right? And you have to also you have to also fucking take all of your fucking eggs in your basket sometimes and dump them all out and make sure that none are cracked, right?
Yeah.
And like that's the hardest thing to do, especially as a man, but I think more than anything now, I think it's more important now than ever as men to do that, to
Yeah.
understand and be whole there, because there's a massive lack of obviously masculinity and real men, and
Mhm.
God fearing driven men that like understand those principles.
Yeah.
And I think people like us, I hate saying it like that, but like individuals that believe the things that we believe as far as growth and what it takes and what you should be doing and what the pain really looks like, we have to understand, we have to understand where we were,
Mhm.
right? Does that make sense? Like if we don't,
Remembering the opposition.
correct. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
if you don't, then it will always be an excuse.
Yeah.
Everything will always be, it will never be a reason. It will always be an excuse. So I think when we fall into those prideful moments and when we kind of start to second guess and be like, I don't know, is it necessary? It'll probably be fine. That's you literally telling yourself to do it
Yeah.
every fucking time, right? Like that. It's always because why your mouth says something, but your gut fucking feels something else. So it's recognition, it's frequency, it's patterns, it's knowing what's an excuse versus what is reasonable and what is actually logical to have done. It's knowing when to shelf certain values to earn new values. It's knowing when to unlearn certain shit so that you can learn it a little bit better. So I think everything can be brought back to an easy out is called an excuse. I
Yeah.
truly believe that. Everybody can easy out it with it's an excuse. It's called an excuse. But if you really do the work and you really want to understand how to get better, that word will kind of start to dissipate a little bit.
Yeah, I one thing that I've learned, and just timeline wise, not necessarily from working with you, but understanding where a lot of my lag comes in is understanding the difference, like the sincere difference between balance and rhythm. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people want work life balance. They want that downtime. They want to be able to know that they get ease at the end of the stress. But what I've learned is how to find rhythm in everything I do. And a lot of the time, that's how you can really pinpoint the things that just aren't serving you anymore or that are
Yeah.
standing in your way. As simple as when I Grubhub something out of convenience because I was ill prepared for the way my meal was supposed to be that day, I then get out of rhythm. And I know that to be true, but then I
Mm-hmm.
start to feel the excuses coming. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? My
I'll start
mind's
over
just like,
tomorrow.
no,
I'll just
this is
finish out
totally
today. We'll
fine.
start back tomorrow. Yep.
Yep, this is justifiable. You have earned all of this slop you're about to consume. But understanding and going back to words, getting rid of the idea of work life balance or I've earned this or positive body, whatever the fuck, I'm happy being the person I am, to just rhythm, knowing that everything comes with synchronicity and you can find that flow. And eventually certain things will feel like they're going against your grain. So you replace them with a new, it's called a new note that helps
Yep.
that orchestra be conducted. I think creatives relate a lot more to that ideology and that belief system than they do the balance because as a creative, and predominantly current, like present day, that's what a lot of the following is here. That's who I
Yeah.
speak to, and I think
Yeah.
you in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah.
I think they do um, they move through life on a different note, on a different wavelength. So to be able to understand how rhythm works, we as creatives don't stop being creative. We just need to make sure that everything we do is either positive creativity or we understand that it's our mind being overly creative and judgmental or opinion based that stops us. That's a big issue of mine is the same effort that goes into art is the same effort that goes into excuses. And it all comes
Yep.
from the same place of creativity.
Yeah.
You
No,
know, I
100%. Yeah. Because it has to be. It has, right? It
yeah.
has to be clever enough. It has to be clever enough for you to believe it. Right?
Yeah.
It has to be creative enough for you to go, that makes sense. Okay. I
Yeah.
get it. I can do this.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, no, I get that 100%. And so to that point, as a creative myself, I think what's helped me is scenario, like little scenario creation, right? So like easy one for you. You just kind of laid it on the head. Like you just grab some Grubhub because it is what it is, right? Okay, well let's quick create a little scenario with that Grubhub in your head, right? Let's get creative in our head and overthink it this way. Well, if I do that, well then I fall off here, and then my rhythm happens to get off, and then maybe my art suffers, and then maybe me and Katie fight when I get home, and then right. So take your creativity and create the scenario in your head of what happens when you don't
Yeah.
versus the excuse of why, right? So if you can flip that mental narrative of like, well, it's okay because to what happens if I do, right? Just like the
Hmm.
words again, it's all words.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So like that's something that helps me a ton in that particular situation, right? Like, man, I don't feel like fucking working out today. Well, what happens if I don't? Well, if I don't work out, my schedule is going to be off, and then my eating is going to be way off, and then I'm probably going to want to work out later when I have to pick up the girls. So then I can't do that. So I don't want to do that, right? So it's like it's just kind of making that switch in your brain to why it's okay versus what happens if you don't.
Yeah. I think I love that because it's kind of like playing the tape. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
100%.
going
Yeah.
back to sobriety, they always say play the tape. You already know
Yeah.
the outcome of this. You just have to be able to play the tape forward.
Yeah.
And
100%.
if if a creative or just an individual is always against the grain and everything feels rigid, they're never going to be able to see that far in advance to see the repercussions that will occur. But once you find your rhythm, then you start to know what it is you stand to gain and what it is you
Yep.
stand to lose by
Yep.
making very, very important decisions. One thing we work on
But
so
small
much.
ones.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing we work on is just like, especially when it comes to being a man, the power in decision as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the power in indecision, because both are very powerful in the outcome. You could live a
Yeah.
life of decision and make a lot of the wrong ones and still get further than you
Mm-hmm.
ever would in a life of indecision where you live life in gray uncertainty, allowing the universe to figure it out for you, because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just comes with it comes with more pain, and it comes with the exact same thing you were hoping to avoid,
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
with no lessons
To be
to get you
learned.
further,
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100, yeah. No, I like that. That's really fucking gets true as hell though, for sure. Yeah. Sorry.
So my question to you, because you are a creative and I've always valued like your ability to apply that to a lot of different elements and a lot of different things you do. I think it becomes painfully obvious, as you said, when you pay attention to a person long enough, you start to see where they do it differently, how they do it differently, and what makes them significant, not from their opinion, but from
Right.
just their ability to be creative and to see it from a different vantage point. How has creativity and being a creative positively impacted your ability to maintain your own control over your life as a parent, as a partner, and as a mentor, and being able to do all of it in
Mm-hmm.
the same level of momentum?
That's a really fucking good question, actually. And I'm gonna love to answer this. So for me, it just like you probably like it started at a very young age, right? So I started making mistakes, obviously very young. I started doing stupid shit when I was young. So even then, when I was probably 13 or 14 years old, I would go to art. I would go to martial arts. I would go to something, some kind of an outlet to like reposition where I was mentally or whatever that was. So for me, it started very early, like with the using the creativity. But now as I get older and I more or less use like my trauma moments as like creating the new lane for this particular whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And what I do, and it sounds kind of fucking twisted, but I'll use a really bad memory of like a time that's similar to maybe what I'm about to go through or what's happening in this instance,
Mm-hmm.
and then my creativity side and my creative side finds a way to always take that really bad memory and pinpoint what was really bad about it and how can I change it to make it something positive and fit in my life now. right? Like
Mhm.
in this instance, kind of like deja vu, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense, right? What happened last time and how can I fix it creatively? So like for me, that's kind of how I use my creativity. And it's in ways of very simple shit, right? Like I never used to be able to go to the bar after I stopped drinking because I couldn't do it. And it was hard for me and mentally I couldn't fucking be there and all this shit. So what did I do? I started to create the bar into a space other than the bar in my head. Right. So like now if I go to a bar, like I'm going to dance with my wife. We're going
Yeah.
dancing. Right. So it's just it's not so much like actual creating anything, but what it does, but I'm creating new scenarios. Right. So
Mhm.
like my imagination is so big because I'm a creative and I see all these fucking windows and all these ways I could do this and this and this and all these little nuances that I take traumatic experiences that are relevant or relatable to where I am in that particular time. And I learn how to creatively make it something that I love now. Right.
Yeah.
And then just like that, the bar is not the bar. It's dancing with my wife. I go dancing with my wife. That's what we're doing. You'll never hear me say we're going to go to the bar ever, like ever. I'll never say it. I'm always, yeah, me and Allie are going to go dancing tonight. And the truth is, we might go sit at a fucking bar so she can have drinks and we can hang out with friends. We might not even ever fucking dance. Right.
Yeah.
But that's creatively, I'm like, we're going to go dance tonight. So I'm like, hell yeah, fucking stoked about it. Going to get it done. Fits in the regimen. Right. So
Yep.
same thing with like shit with my kids, things like that, right? So like how the fuck do I fit in all this time to be able to do this with my kids and to maintain this with my wife and to maintain this level of business with clients and all this? So my kids are a good one, right? So my kids, that's why I incorporate my kids in so many things,
Mhm.
or I teach them as I'm doing. Right. So I'm creating, and that's not so much like creating that space as you're asking, but what I am doing for myself is I'm creating education in what I'm doing. So for me, I'm like creating this thing for my kids. I'm showing them how to do this thing and I'm creating this business mindset for them. So I'm using what I've done in my creativity already to not only include them, but continue to build and maintain what I have by not having to X out my business side by creatively including them in little things that they like. My daughter will hold the camera. Fucking, I'll be like, Roman, I need you to run and do this and make this noise or whatever. Right. So I use anything I can like creatively to include everyone in what I'm doing at all times. That's helped me. So like,
Yeah.
especially like with Allie, being able to be a good husband, right? Be able to maintain our house, be able to maintain taking care of the kids when she needs me, being able to maintain upkeep of our house, running the business, paying the bills, taking care of all of that. So I don't like gamify my life, but it's like a competition to myself daily, right?
Yeah.
Like almost like I have my own little scoreboard in my head and I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna beat your ass today. Like, right, well,
Yep.
how many points can I get on you today? Right. So that's probably a little more direct answer to like what you asked is like, I have this scoreboard that I keep with myself every day that I wake up. And it's like, all right, fucking today's game, fucking, third quarter, let's go. And I kind of play the day like that to where like, fuck, all right, I missed this. How can I finish all of this shit? All right, let's think here. If this was the last quarter of the game, what would I do? So it just becomes like almost a competition to myself and how can I outdo myself by creating new ways to maintain or level up. If
Yeah.
does
I
that make sense?
think no, absolutely. And I love how we can pivot right into this because in industries that are creative, generally you see more concern about the amount of players than you do how high the scoreboard's going. You
Yeah.
get more concerned about how many players are coming onto the board instead of just seeing how high your last score was and how you can beat
Right.
it. Like the tattoo industry, Nike just announced that it was going to somehow get its way into tattoo education to bring it more into its brand because you see a lot of athletes getting tattooed. Yeah, and
No shit.
everybody's in uproar about it. And I've been saying there's going to be a corporate takeover because of the attraction revolving around the community. Obviously, other corporations
Yeah.
are going to come in and try to get their piece of the pie. Are you more concerned about how many people that's going to bring into the industry, or are you more concerned about how you can escape the swamp people mentality who are coming in at the bottom to work yourself up to the middle and up to the top? The difference
Yeah.
is, are you more worried about how many teams there are playing, or how hard you have to work to be the best team.
To be the best team. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
A
and
huge different, that's a massive different pile.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, that also goes to the same thing we've been talking about when it comes to your health, your physical and your mental like fortitude and where you go. Are you more worried about all of the variables? Or are you just more worried about not only beating your old score, but showing up as the best version of yourself? You know, I've gotten to a point where once you beat the shit out of your old self long enough, you need to start looking at your future self as your next competition.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? I'm a firm believer that when we die, we are not going to be judged by God. God will stand us next to the person that we were meant to be, and we are obligated to judge ourselves in
Yeah.
comparison. So
Yeah.
I don't just try to do 1% better than yesterday. I
Yeah.
try to do as much as I can to be a worthy adversary of the version of me I know I was called to become.
Yep.
And that's the reality that I came to when I reached out to you and I said I wanted to do this podcast to really put me
Yeah.
under the spotlight of my inadequacies of what I've been able to create. I can look great on paper on social media, but if I'm not willing to face the giant of where I'm not performing, how will I ever perform to my best ability to be able to be that worthy adversary of my future self?
Yeah, no, I love that because and you hit it on the fucking head, right? Because if we continue to I'm on a podcast, buddy. You gotta go away. Sorry. If we continue to compare ourselves to what was and
Yep.
the version of ourselves we've already destroyed, like progression stops, right?
Yeah.
Just like you said, you have to be constantly chasing the best version of you. What did you do? Because you're gonna miss it every day, right? Like you're gonna like, and that's the best thing. Like people can say it all they want, but you're going to miss it every day. Like you're gonna be, you could be so fucking close, super fucking close, but you'll never actually hit the perfect version of you, right? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. We just continue to try. Like God wasn't even fucking perfect to a degree, right? So it's like you have to understand at, which is like you said, at what point do you have to create this new person that you want to challenge,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, there comes a point where like the old you it's fucking irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant now, right? Like that
Mhm.
doesn't, you don't think that way, you don't have those thoughts, you don't do those act like some at some point it is completely irrelevant. So comparing
Yeah.
yourself to what was no longer applies. It no longer benefits you. Now you have to compare yourself to what you can imagine it being, right?
Mhm.
And if you can imagine yourself as that person and you can see that person, you better fucking chase it. Right. And like
Yeah.
that's what you should be chasing. So that's what you should be competing for. Because if you can visually see it, you know it in your head to be true that like you've already surpassed this person. You've become this new person. Well, now guess what? The new person, you got to compete with that motherfucker. And the only way to do that is to stop worrying about what you used to do and who you used to be and how you changed for that guy. And now you need to figure out how the fuck to be this guy and change these things to be that guy. So
Yep.
it's more of a constant progression of like, yeah, the 1% thing is like, it's cool. I love it. It's great. But at the same time, it's not all encompassing. It's not exactly right. 1% is okay, cool. I drank a one more glass of water today. That's
Yeah.
fucking horseshit. That is not accomplishment, right? So it's
Yeah.
so it's like at what point do we call frivolous, dumb bullshit accomplishment? Like that has to stop, right? So it's okay. No, your 1%, if you want to go that route and say I'm doing 1% better, then your 1% needs to be okay. You made 1% more money. You fucking got 1% more clients. You increased your family dynamic by 1%. Like something like that, but like fucking something of significance if you're going to use the 1% a day ideology, right? But
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, to your point, striving to be the best fucking version of yourself in God's image as you were created, the best frequency, because it's all in you, you know, and I don't know how deep you get with that stuff in your podcast, but like it's all there. Everything's there, right? You were born with it. You were fucking
Yep.
born with everything that you fucking need. And the reality is through the time you have been stripped away of it, not adding
Yeah.
to it. So what you're actually trying to do is get back to that
Yeah.
fucking person you were born as, right? So, and that's how we start to, what's next? Who's next? What do we do today? How do I beat that guy today? Just like you said, what's the scoreboard? I don't give a fuck who's playing. Like,
Yep.
who's the winner? Who's the leader? How do I get to the top? How do I become the highest scoring me fucking possible? Right? I don't give a shit about Mike's team. I don't care about fucking my wife's team. How do I get my best score? Because I know that
Yeah.
me getting my best score, now that I've achieved that, I can get everybody else to their best score too.
Yeah.
That's
I
so
love that.
that's
So,
kind of how I look at it as a coach.
and as you should, I mean, coach, mentor aside, I think what's so profound about you is it's not just how you look at it as a coach, it's how you look at it as an individual. It just makes for good coaching. You know what I mean? And I
True.
think the
Yeah.
one thing that I struggle with, or have struggled with, but consistently get more clear on, is the most clear version of who that future self is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can tell you until I'm blue in the face. My best future self has a six pack, a dick V, and my chest hangs out further than my belly because that's what justifies not being fat. You know what I mean? Like, and that's and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good and well,
Yeah.
but to know that this is the body type, you also have to know, okay, well, what's the mindset? What does that produce? To be able to
Correct.
know where that mindset, what else can that mindset produce for my family to feel the value and the outcome of what it was I was able to create? So getting
Yeah.
super clear on your vivid vision of who that version of you is, what it is you did and shifted to be able to create it, what kind of life can that produce. So it's not just I failed on my body type, like
Yeah.
there's not a lot of substance to that, because
No.
somebody who wants to be like peeled, cut, that's all good and well. Why?
Right.
Why do you want this? Is it
Right.
because you want attention? Because that's not going to be enough of a motivator to get you all the way to the end. Is it because
Right.
you want to compete? That's a little bit more valuable. Is it because you want your wife and your family to look at you as a man of action who has significant levels of follow through? Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Can that follow through that you've created simply by moving your feet and not putting a fucking foot long sandwich in your mouth, able to produce a new homestead, a new business model, a new team that looks at you as a predictable leader, not somebody who's unhinged and unable to follow. Now
Yeah.
you have this really clear, vivid vision picture, and now it's super easy to just get up and go to the gym. It's just
Yeah.
part of the process.
Right. It's
And I
it's,
think
cre- it's
that's been,
creating that habit. Yeah.
yeah, that's been my biggest issue is my vivid vision has changed rapidly in the past 6 months, even over the
Mm-hmm.
past week. All right, with the state of the world and all the spiritual warfare that you see everywhere, my vivid vision of what it is I want to create, why it is I want to create it, and how it is I have to be willing to do so has changed astronomically.
Yeah.
And it's forced me to really eradicate a lot of the excuses, a lot of the complacency, and to understand, even though I value the actions it takes to maintain this scalability in the force or in my tattoo career, that is all more than capable of being in maintenance while I put the rest on the front burner to get it like piping hot in a sense. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And the lack of vision in that is, I think, what a lot of people, and just like you said, it can change, it can adjust, it can shift. Sometimes you're not sure about it. But I definitely agree, especially like, obviously in the recent events of like what's happening. I think now more than ever, it's super important for us as men, just men in general, fathers, sons, whatever, to understand or try to at least clear up that vision, because
Mm-hmm.
especially having sons, right? Like right now, like I am very fearful for the world that my kids might grow up in,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not, also because of what I have shown them and taught them. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like at this point, to me at this point as a man, it becomes more about kind of conservation and of what a man should be and what a family man, a father, a husband should be, than it even is about having the six pack and having that, right? It's not so much about the vanity and the looks anymore. It's about like redeveloping and recreating and solidifying what a man is to my son, to my
Yeah.
daughters, to the people around me, right? And like, you don't have to be the biggest fucking jacked guy in the world, but having a physique to start shows the discipline of a good man, right? So having
Yeah.
a nice house shows the discipline of a good man. Having a clean house shows the discipline of a good relationship with a husband and wife. Like, so I think it's extremely important to look at it from like that visualization of like what that is, right? Like when
Yeah.
you look at that as like what your ultimate vision is and what your ultimate like statue of who you are is or becoming is, like what are those kind of top attributes? I think those have to be there now more than ever, and would probably help create that consistency in what you see, right? Because
Yeah.
now we kind of know without any shred of a doubt, we need more strong men in this country, in this world,
Yeah.
period. Right. And so like for anything even outside of just that sentence, like that could be a driving and a factor that you always go to. Right. Like not that you need to be jacked, not that you want to be ripped and mentally you need this for your own validity, but
Yeah.
that you're a man living on earth right now in the worst possible fucking time to be living as a man. And it's kind of our responsibility to step back up and show the men that we're raising this is what it's supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to act. This is how you're supposed to take care of yourself. So I think it becomes now, and the 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't so much like this, but like obviously over the course of time, shit has changed. But now more than ever, it's more or less to me about the longevity of what a man is supposed to be. The
Yeah.
longevity of like how you should be able to look at a man and know that's a strong man. I
Yeah.
trust that person. That just like you said, that person will lead. Like so, it for me, it became over the last couple of years. It became more about showing than proving. If that makes
Hmm.
sense, showing
Yeah.
my
Absolutely. Yeah.
family, the people around me, became way more about showing than it did about proving. So, like for me, that kind of helps me keep that visualization of what the best me is really tight. Is what am I showing? What am I showing the world? What am I showing my kids? What am I showing the people that pay attention to me? Right? Like I've proven plenty of things. I've proven it. I've done the bodybuilding shows. I've done the fucking thing. I've proven that shit. I don't need to harp on that. Right? What I
Yeah.
want to harp on is it was because I think it's important for us to fucking be men and bring the man back to the house. Right?
Yeah.
And so like that for me, and I think for you too, because you are, a religious, spiritual, God-driven person. I'm sorry if I religious. I hate that word. Um, that's what it's about. Like
Yeah.
all of the we can take all the narratives, we can change the words, change the story, pretend all we want, but at the end of the day, it's about being the man, being that spiritual connector, that protector, that provider, being
Hmm.
like that leader, like that's what it's all about, right? So I think sometimes it becomes easier if we strip the vanity out of that visualization and understand more the purpose and why
Yeah.
than so much of the I want to look good, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, of course you want to look good, but like let's take let's take the vanity out of it for a second, right? Yes, everybody wants to look good. That's easy. Well, now if you dedicated this to because you wanted to be a better man for your family. Well, what happens now? You got a group of people at an event and they come up to you and you're sloppy and you're overweight, and you're with your family. They're gonna fuck with you. They're gonna talk
Yeah.
shit. They're gonna fuck whatever they want, right? Now let's switch that. Now you're in shape. You got your arms are showing. You're still with your family. You're the same fucking guy, but you look like you'll fuck somebody up. Then people they're not gonna fuck with you. It's a
Yeah.
threat, right? And it's not even so much of a threat as it's a respect thing. It's a huge respect thing, right? Like I'm fucking 5'6". I'm not big, but I'm in great shape and I carry myself. When you see me or you hear me talk or any of that, this guy probably means his business. This guy's probably about his shit. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not so much about the visualization being the physical as it is what it means. Like what's the underlying purpose of why you look like that? Why you
Hmm.
carry yourself like that? Why it's important to you to be that kind of a man for your fucking family. right? So I think at some point we have to eliminate the visualization in the vanity side and in the like, I want to look like this because I want to look like this side,
Mhm.
and focus a little bit on the like protector side, provider side, family
Yeah.
side a little bit. And I think that makes it a little bit easier to continue to go, right? Because if we focus on the vanity part of it, it's easy to just throw the excuses. Well, I'll just
Yeah.
fucking wear a bigger shirt. It's all right. No big deal. I'll wear a baggier shirt today and no one will notice. Right. So it's
Yep.
like, so I think the visualization is really important because I'm like that too. Like mine used to change, but now that I've gotten to where I've gotten in the last couple of years, like I said, where it's changed like to a permanency almost, has been more about just being that man, being that father, being that thing for my kid to look up at. Right. So like, I don't talk about this often. I'll just leave this little piece real quick. But so I have an autistic nephew, and awesome. His name's Enzo. I fucking love the kid to death. He's fucking awesome, but he's nonverbal, right?
Hmm.
So he don't like people. He doesn't like many people, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's just he's the sweetest fucking kid in the world, but he's not around a lot of people, so he doesn't like a lot of people. But like for me, one day, this was about a year and a half ago, and I've always been close, like as far as not like we're not close, but me and him have always been good. He's always
Yeah.
recognized me. He knows who I am. But one day, about a year and a half ago, out of nowhere, doesn't talk. He's getting better, but he doesn't talk. Out of nowhere, he comes up to me, and I had a tank top on, and he goes, "Strong." Says it clear as fucking day, right? So now every time he sees me, he says that because he recognizes that, right? So it's like I
Yeah.
always look at that, something like that for me. And I cried, I bawled my fucking eyes out when it happened, right? But it was like when that happened to me, it was like that's what it's about, right? It's not about me wanting to look good in the mirror and me wanting to showcase all of this shit. It's about what the younger generation, younger boys, fucking like people that are lost see and what they think when they look at me. And like when he
Yeah.
did that and he was like strong, that's what I want. I want people to see a strong man, a fucking father, somebody that can protect. Like so, like for that's what where my visualization got switched, and it became a lot
Yeah.
easier to keep it there because the focus and emphasis was more on that than it was on just being the jacked rip guy, right? And it's like, cool,
Yeah.
they're a dime a fucking dozen now. Like let's be the jacked rip protector. Let's be the jacked rip dad. Let's be the
Yeah.
jacked rip leader. Let's not just be the jacked rip model, right?
Yeah.
Like
I
that ain't serving
think
nobody.
no, and I think that's a beautiful sentiment because we don't realize how many eyes and ears are always watching and listening. And I
Mhm.
think that's what a true legacy is. I know a lot of men who don't have a family, but they built a really, really valuable legacy just through the eyes and the ears that are always present. And they acknowledge that. I also know a lot of people who have so much more to give, but they live their lives based on whether that's indecision or statements like it is what it is, or it's okay to not be okay, or whatever the
Yeah,
case may be. But if you're not asking yourself, like, okay, so if it is what it is, then what does it take for that not being okay anymore? If it's
right.
okay to not be okay for now, how long are you willing to not be okay to realize it's also okay to be better? At what point
Right.
in time do you realize that just living life lukewarm because of circumstances is only going to keep you exactly where you are? Ever since I got sober and started working with like all you guys from back then, I realized I spent a lot of time living in my own hell, but convincing everybody it was a fucking beach house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there comes a point in time where you either accept that as, oh, it is what it is, make the best of it, or no, it's time to move on. And what I realized was over the course of time, I wasn't obligated to get as clear as possible in hell. It was to get more clear as I started taking my active steps out of it. Everybody's hell's differently.
Yeah,
My art can be my heaven, but my personal development can be my hell. So if I want to be able to find that rhythm in the two, I need to start taking active steps and keeping myself accountable to where it matches my love, my passion, my purpose, and my attention for the art. It's not about just the art making everything valuable. It's about getting every action to feel that same amount of love and get the same
yep,
amount of attention for that rhythm to occur.
yeah,
And for artists, it's really easy to neglect ourselves because we feel like that's the sacrifice that must be made to be able to provide for others and to be able to do the job that we do.
Yeah.
Incorrect. We sacrifice so much value as humans to be just a provider and a pawn for the outcome of others, which is people pleasing, not being of service. You
Yeah.
know,
100%.
and really
Yeah.
breaking through back to the psychology of all of it. I I think we live in a world that doesn't want to really look into the psychology of the individual, but the psychology of the circumstance, which
Mm-hmm.
helps people attach themselves to the inadequacies or the top tier, which is the reason the middle class drops out and you're obligated to make a decision of are you going to be poor brained or find freedom in everything. And success is a tangible outcome
Mm-hmm.
and a state of being, no different than being poor is a tangible outcome and a state of being. I know
100%.
plenty of people with no money that are more successful than most people I know. I know plenty of people who have a fuck ton of money but are poor as shit because they are unaligned with the values that are going to make those things actually valuable.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. This is good, man. This is really fucking good. But it's true because, and so, oh, sorry, stupid. My text is set up to my fucking. No, it's true. So, what point do I want to hit on that? Where do I start with that? Ooh, I'm not sure where I want to hit you with that one. That's good. No, that's good. That's really good. I was like, I got to have something really good to come back with on this one. I think you said it perfectly. I mean, I think you really did. I think it makes perfect sense, dude. I think what you said lines up. I think it makes perfect sense for it, especially on the individual side versus the circumstantial side, right? Because life isn't circumstantial, and the circumstances is also momentary. So if you're only fixing the circumstance and focusing on that every single time, then we're not getting anywhere,
Yeah.
right? Because then tomorrow the circumstance is different, but you haven't cured the problem, you haven't fixed the
Yeah.
issue, right? So like that, like, yeah. So saying that you unraveled a lot right there, but yeah, like that would probably be like where I'd start with that. Yeah, like the idea that we can fix circumstance to change the long-term outcome doesn't make sense. The momentary circumstance doesn't typically change a long-term outcome. It's all of these things happening in a row over time,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, yeah, so you're focused, you completely focus on the wrong fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, and when you do that, what do? You bury yourself into this just rhetorical life where it's just fucking you talking to you with no
Mm-hmm.
fucking response, hanging out with you, not getting anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you just get stuck in this fucking bubble. No, but dude, it's yes. I think people use circumstance. I don't even say they use it. People circumstance leads people into that is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that long enough period of time where it's been is what it is for a few months now. And now it's not so much is what it is, just is, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think it is. There's so too much emphasis on the circumstance versus the individual problem, the individual issue, the individual's way of correcting that issue too, right? So like my immediate creative brain for you, like just, and this is just an example, I thought about this earlier, would be to use yourself as your next piece of art, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how would you incorporate that? If the next tattoo you did was you getting ripped, how do you do it? How do you show the world that? How do you create that piece of art, right? How do you wake up tomorrow and say, all right, I'm about to embark on this new project, this new piece of art. It's a statue. It's a statue of me, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how would you do that? Think about like that. Sometimes we need to strip that away and like think about it in that light too, right? Like I used to do that for myself when I was like struggling with a body part or struggling to get somewhere. If I had to build this, right? Like and this is when I had my construction company. If I had to build this, what would I do? Where would I start?
Yeah.
Right? If this was my next project, what would be the first fucking thing I did? Right? So first the foundation and all the actual internals have to be fixed, right? Okay. Well, I got to work on my mindset. I got to work on my nutrition and what I'm putting in, right? Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
there's that. There's the first step in the project. What's the next project? Okay, now I need to visualize it. And visualize it, I need to brainstorm it. What's it going to look like when I'm done? What do I want this to be when I'm completed, when it's finished? Okay, there's that. There's the visualization. There's the board. Okay, what's the first step to achieve part one? Okay, well, it's chapter one is, or the first part of the painting is your shoulders. Okay,
Yeah.
what's step one for that? Right. So it's like, how do you take what you're already really good at, which is your art and your creativity there? How do you take that and make you your most valuable fucking piece of art? How do you take what you would, if you were to put you on a tattoo of you on somebody, how would it go? What would you do? What would be the process to make you that person? Right. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes using that creativity for what we're already good at in the maintenance side and what we can habitually maintain very fucking well. Okay. Well, since I'm a really good artist, maybe sculpting myself is my next piece of art. Right.
Yeah. I
And you're,
I love that. I say all the time, life itself is no different than the creation of art because we always have to start with simple shapes.
yeah,
You don't just say, "I've done a cool painting." There's shapes, there's hard
yeah,
lines,
yep,
there's reference points you have to use. But that does bring me to, and maybe my last question.
yeah.
Um, what is the difference between alleviating the symptoms and finding the cure? Because what I'm realizing, especially after this conversation, I've really enjoyed this conversation,
Same.
is I think a lot of people are looking for symptom alleviation because we live in a world that has such quick immediate gratification, but finding a cure requires a protocol, and a protocol
Mm-hmm.
requires consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But in your opinion, in your field, in your life, where have you been able to make those shifts, or have you even struggled with going directly into protocol?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think I think the determining factor for me to kind of like go right into protocol is not necessarily urgency, um, but a little bit of that legacy, a little bit, right? So I know, and part of it is it's hard for me because I do have a lot of eyes on me now. So like mentally, I changed some things the way I think, but if I want to put something into protocol and permanence, it has to be, how do I say this? It has to be, I have to know going into it that the long term commitment is greater than the short term pain, no, regardless of what it is. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, no matter what I do, I have to walk into something knowing, okay, if I'm going to go into protocol, I'm doing this because ultimately this is going to be better than the other situation, the other outcome. This is going to propel me. But how do
Yeah.
you how do you cure the root, the problem versus just the surface level? Really is a hard reset. A hard reset. That's probably always going to be my answer. Um, and it's because what happens over time, and I've had to do this to myself. And what happens over time is the only way to get to the root cause of the problem is to peel back layers, right? And the only
Yeah.
way you peel back layers is to start to fucking pull away all of the things that you've learned throughout the process on the way, right? Because it's not a matter, and obviously we know this, taking away is usually greater than adding, depending on the situation. We know that, right? But it comes to the point where you have compiled so much on top of so much, on top of so much, on top of so much, you don't know what the fuck's making a difference anymore. So
Yeah.
even if you mentally go into protocol without figuring that part out, you're setting yourself up for disaster and being in the same sickness, right?
Yeah.
So in order to completely cure it versus just remedy it, you have to start with nothing. That was kind of what my thing was. I took everything off the table. The only thing I did was work my job, well, my company, work my job, spend time with my family, and then I started there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't talk to nobody. I have no friends anymore. I ghosted everybody, and I started to say, okay, what's one piece that I have to put in here that I have to have. Okay, I have to have my workout. Okay, that's going to be in there now. I'm rebuilding myself, right? So
Hmm.
now that's a part of my new cure, essentially, right? And your non-negotiables kind of become your cure. But the only
Yeah.
way to get to that point is to strip everything else away that you think is helping you, that you think is causing the problem, that you think needs to be there. So until we completely pull everything out from what we are doing and start at absolute ground zero, right? And it can be, if we're talking health and wellness, it can be taking all the supplements off your cupboards, redoing your groceries, like whatever, but a complete start at zero. Okay, this is where I'm at. Start from zero, start to add things and see where the problem occurs, right?
Hmm.
That's what helped me a lot. Because we can take away all day. We need to. But if you taking away is not the same as stripping down, right? Like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm not going to do that thing anymore because I don't like that. No, I'm going to start from fucking nothing. I'm not going to do shit. I'm going to start and rebuild. I have this whiteboard and I'm a new human and this is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want to do, right? So, in order to cure anything, you have to remove everything, right? That's the only way to get to the root cause is to remove everything. It's the same
Hmm.
with doctors in cancer. They do it the wrong way, but like essentially they do a biopsy because they're trying to remove it, right? Like that's
Hmm.
their cure. That's their solution. It's the worst fucking possible way they could do it, but that's their cure, their solution. So it's the same concept as you have to strip away everything completely. Get back to Mike. Just Mike. Not Mike the tattoo artist, not Mike the force of
Yeah.
focus, not Mike the husband, just Mike, right? Okay. And when you look at Mike, what does Mike need? What do you need to have? Okay, I need to have art. Okay, we're going to add art. I need to have my relationship with my wife and my family. Okay, we're going to add that. I need to have XYZ, right? And then you'll start to realize by stripping everything away, when you add the elements that you thought maybe you needed back in, and you'll start to see where the issues occur, right? So like you can solve and cure something completely by finding out where the issue actually occurs, right? It's the same with an electrical problem, right? You look at an electrical problem. Well, this thing isn't, it's not, something's wrong. It's not working. Well, it's wired
Hmm.
wrong internally. You have to take everything apart and find out where the short is. Find out where the line in the current gets cut, right? That's your problem. That's your actual issue. So that's how you solve that. You peel back the fucking wire or peel back the fucking coating. You clip the wire, you reconnect it where it's supposed to be for the right currency, the right frequency, so that you can go on to live the right life like you want. So ultimately, to solve, we have to disconnect and disassociate from everything and then start to put the pieces back in that we think are what we want.
Hmm.
But you have to do it slowly, one at a time, right? So you can have a week or two worth of case study to say, well, I did that and everything was great and everything was still good, right? Okay, well now you added in one extra fucking thing, whatever the hell it is, some random thing that you added in that you used to do, and then all of a sudden, well now I'm not getting to this, and now this isn't happening, and now I'm forgetting to
Yeah.
do this. Okay, there's part of your fucking problem. That's gone. Okay, so for me, solving versus just like or symptom masking versus actually curing a problem is stripping away everything and replacing the things that are actually detrimental for your survival and for your way of life and who you want to be, how you want to be represented, how you want to be looked at, all of that, right? Because then
Yeah.
you're just left with everything that makes you exactly what you want.
I like
There's
that.
no more there's, you know what I mean? There's no more disease to cure. There's nothing left to fix because you've stripped away everything. And cause I think sometimes we have it backwards. We're like, yes, I understand removing things from your life is definitely necessary to, go through the ebbs and flows and understand and navigate your way of life for sure. But I
Hmm.
think also completely stripping and adding only what's effective, only what's needed. You start to kind of really realize, okay, well, maybe I was wasting energy on this. And because of that wasted energy, I started to miss out on this because I didn't have energy for this thing that I really needed to do that would have actually progressed my life and my family. But I was losing that energy because I was doing this thing. And once I put this back into my life, I realized that was the problem.
Yeah.
So that's why doctors don't cure anybody, right? Because they never actually take the medication away. They always just give
Yeah.
more. As long as you continue to mask it with more productivity and more value, right? You're never going to get to that point until you actually say, okay, I don't need to fucking do this. I need to do this. I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I think it's easier to find the value in things when you take them away than it is when you add them. Right. So like taking away makes sense in value as far as it goes, like piece by piece. But if you're trying to get to the root cause of your actual problem and what the fuck you don't know, you got to take it all out. You got to take everything out. And that's
I like
why
the
that's
idea.
why cold turkey is the only way that works for me.
Yeah, I like the idea of like it's a what's it called? It's like a life elimination diet.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yeah. This
Oh,
does not put any nutrients in my life, right? Like this does
yeah,
not serve a purpose for my life's like value, 100%.
yeah, yeah. I
And there's
love
always
that.
going to be nuances and room for little shit, right? But until you reach that point, until you reach that level of complacency, or maintenance, none of it matters. You got to strip all that out and find that first, right? And then once you find that first, and then you reach that level, all the other shit is just little nuances, little shit that it's going to come and go. It'll bounce in, bounce out, but your foundation will be strong because you've rebuilt it on only the things that actually progress you, right? Not value, not what you value, but what are progressing you, what are making you better. Because I value tons of shit that doesn't fucking make me better.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like that's true. I smoke weed every day. I value the fuck out of it. It probably doesn't make me better, but I smoke weed every
Yeah,
day. Right. So it's like, so we have to also do that dance where it's like, you got to kind of hard ass yourself and be like, all right, yeah, I value it, but is it helping? Like,
yeah,
right. Like maybe not. So,
yeah. No, that makes
so yeah,
sense.
I
I
think
like
it's a
it.
stripping away, man. I really do. I've tried everything else, at least for myself, to add things that make me happier and before alleviating the problem, right? It's like, it
Yeah,
never works. It never works. So it's like, just do the work, fucking cut your ass back, say, nope, not doing A, B, C, D, and E. I'm going to focus on X, Y, and Z. And that's all I'm going to do for now. And then eventually it gets to the point where it's like, all right, yeah, we can do that. I'll throw that in. That's cool. Makes sense. And if
mhm.
I don't like it, nah, no worries. So, and it just becomes easier to manage. And then
Yeah,
so like for me, I'm content and I'm complacent right now, and that'll last about a week, and then I want
yeah,
more, and then I'll have to try something else. So it's like that's why I say I like maintenance over complacency and excuses.
yeah. I think you have to be in the right place to know what's worthy of your maintenance at the same time. And like you had just said, if you already have a plate full of shit, it's you don't maintain the shit, you alleviate the shit so that you can figure out where your strengths are. I mean, it's a SWOT analysis. You
It
know what I
is
mean? If you know
100%.
what your
Yeah,
strengths
it
are,
is.
your
Yeah,
weaknesses are, your
yeah,
opportunities are, your threats are, then all of a
yep,
sudden it's easy to eliminate.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
but man, when you try to explain to a tattoo artist they need to do a SWOT analysis, they look at you like an absolute asshole. You know
Wait,
what I
what?
mean?
I'm not into law enforcement, sir. Like that's not what I meant.
Yeah, yeah. My my
Yeah,
my knowledge of company based acronyms is just it's probably too much. So I need to find new terms for it. But it does make
yeah,
sense to be able
yeah.
to first you have to start with a clean plate. You know, you
Mhm.
don't go back up to the buffet with a plate already full of shit. You go get a new
Yeah,
plate and you start from scratch.
clean
I
that
just
bitch
made a
off. Yeah,
fat
start from
person
scratch.
reference to health, but what do you do?
It worked. It worked well. Hell yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't DoorDash that shit. You just fucking Grubhub it. You cook your meal, damn it.
absolutely, absolutely. Oh
Hell
man,
yeah.
dude, I sincerely appreciate your time today. Went way longer than anticipated, and I think that's kind of the nice part about sitting down with
Yeah. No
somebody you
worries.
value. So,
No worries, man.
hell
Yeah.
yeah,
Anytime. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always good to talk about, real conversations about shit that matters. So I love that.
hell yeah. Well, we'll do it
Hell yeah,
again.
man.
I'm cleaning the slate as is, so we'll tap back in here in a quarter and figure out where we go
Yeah.
maintenance mode.
For sure. Hell yeah. All right,
All
man.
right, man.
Nice.